In the mid-1970s, before filling stadiums with Journey, Jonathan Cain was carving out his own path as the leader of the Jonathan Cain Band. His style was a sophisticated blend of rock, pop, and soul, with his prowess at the piano serving as the primary engine. His talent in Chicago did not go unnoticed, eventually catching the eye of a monumental figure in the industry, Albert Grossman. To put Grossman's influence into perspective, he was the manager who discovered and shaped the careers of Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, and Peter, Paul and Mary. Grossman saw limitless potential in Jonathan and signed him to his label, Bearsville Records. Under this backing, he recorded his debut album, Windy City Breakdown. It was an ambitious project, and Jonathan felt that success was finally guaranteed. However, reality proved otherwise. Despite the high expectations, the record failed to connect with audiences, sales were minimal, and promotion ground to a halt. Grossman, known for being a ruthless businessman, lost interest in the project almost immediately. With his contract dissolved and only a few dollars remaining from his album advance, Jonathan decided to move to Los Angeles. He hoped his history with Bearsville would open doors quickly, but Hollywood proved to be an indifferent city. He went from the prestigious studios of Woodstock to being stuck in a cramped apartment, facing a suffocating financial reality. To stay afloat, Jonathan took a job as a salesman in a musical equipment store. The situation was both ironic and painful. He spent his days demonstrating state-of-the-art synthesizers and pianos to other musicians, while he could barely cover his basic expenses. His career seemed to have stalled just when it was supposed to take off. As if the financial pressure weren't enough, fate dealt him a devastating emotional blow. His dog, a terrier who was his only companion during those lonely days, suffered a serious accident right in front of him. Jonathan rushed him to a veterinary clinic, where the news was critical. To save his pet's life, he needed $1,000. In 1977, that amount represented an unreachable fortune for someone who could barely pay rent. The helplessness of being unable to protect his only friend left him on the verge of an emotional collapse. After managing to work out a payment plan with the vet to buy some time, Jonathan walked to a payphone. With his spirit at an all-time low and casting aside any trace of pride, he dialed his father, Leonard Cain, in Chicago. That call wasn't just a request for financial help. It was the moment an artist was about to admit defeat and abandon music forever. The voice on the other end of the line was his father, Leonard. Jonathan, his voice breaking, confessed his reality. "Dad, I need help to get by. I feel like the city has beaten me and things have gotten so hard. Should I just give up and come home?" Leonard, far from judging him or giving him a sermon about his choices, sent the support he needed for the vet clinic. But before hanging up, he uttered the words that years later would become a universal anthem. "John, I know the outlook seems dark right now, but I'm convinced the best is yet to come. I only ask you one thing. Don't stop believin'." Struck by his father's conviction, Jonathan took a small spiral notebook where he usually wrote his lyrics, and on the back cover, he wrote that advice as if it were an anchor to keep him from sinking. In the following months, every time discouragement visited him, Jonathan would look at those words and think, "My father really believes something good is going to happen here." That notebook wasn't just paper. It was proof that someone still believed in his talent. To stay grounded, Jonathan continued working at the famous Music City store, located in the heart of Sunset Boulevard. This job not only allowed him to settle his pet's medical bills and survive but also kept him in the center of Hollywood's creative hurricane. Jonathan defined this job as his university of the industry. While working the counter, he observed what great artists were looking for, and in quiet moments, he kept his technique impeccable by playing the store's keyboards. Without knowing it, he was in the exact place where managers and the most important bands looked for their tools. The British band The Babies, who were already enjoying international success, were looking for a keyboardist to evolve their sound and definitively conquer the American market. Their leader, John Waite, was looking for more than just a technical performer. What he needed was a musical architect. Jonathan heard about the opportunity and decided to audition. In the audition room, he faced brilliant musicians, but Jonathan had a defining factor that no one else could offer. He didn't just play virtuously. He demonstrated an innate capacity for composition and arrangement. His musical vision was so clear that John Waite knew immediately that Jonathan wasn't just a supporting member, but the key piece to take the band to the next level. Jonathan's arrival at the Babies in 1979 was not merely the addition of a supporting musician. His impact on the group was immediate on the albums Union Jacks and On the Edge. John Waite, the band's leader, was fascinated. Jonathan didn't just play the keyboards. He proposed arrangements and melodies that transformed intimate songs into anthems designed for massive stadiums. He had the vision of a musical architect who knew exactly how to move the masses. The final chapter of Jonathan's destiny began to be written in 1980, during Journey's departure album tour. At that time, the Babies were the opening act for the concerts. While Jonathan poured himself out on stage with overwhelming energy, Steve Perry and Neil Schon, the leaders of Journey, watched him intently from the shadows. They didn't just admire his impeccable piano technique, they were hypnotized by his natural ability to connect with thousands of people every night. At that moment, Journey was facing a critical challenge. Gregg Rolie, the original keyboardist and founding member, was exhausted from intense touring and wished to retire to prioritize his personal life. However, the band was at its peak, and they couldn't afford to stop their ascent. It was Gregg himself, in a gesture of immense professionalism, who pointed out his successor. After seeing Jonathan perform, he told his bandmates, "That's the one. He has the voice, the fire, and above all, he knows how to write great stories." The transition, it was almost like a movie script. One night, while returning from a concert, the band's manager threw a question at him that seemed like a joke. How would it feel to be the next keyboardist for Journey? Jonathan laughed, thinking it was just a casual remark. But shortly after, he received the definitive call. "You're the next one in Journey." Surprised, Jonathan asked for the audition date, to which the manager replied with total confidence, "There's no need for an audition. We already know what you're capable of." As this was happening, Jonathan faced an ethical dilemma. He felt a deep sense of loyalty toward the Babies, the band that had given him his first big break. However, looking toward the horizon, he realized that he had already reached his creative limit with them, while with Journey, he had the chance to write a golden page in rock history. He packed his belongings in Los Angeles and moved to San Francisco. There, in a rented apartment with a new set of gear, he was given just one instruction. Go into the rehearsal room with the guys and let the magic begin. The first meeting in the rehearsal room was a revelation. They didn't just limit themselves to going over past hits. The chemistry was so explosive that they began composing new material that very afternoon. From that first session, Stone in Love was born. Hearing the result, Steve Perry and Neil Schon exchanged a look of relief and triumph. Jonathan wasn't just a simple replacement, he was the missing puzzle piece needed to turn Journey from a successful band into a stadium legend capable of creating immortal anthems. In 1981, the band arrived at Fantasy Studios to begin work on their next album, Escape. For Jonathan Cain, the atmosphere was charged with a massive challenge. At that moment, he was the new guy tasked with replacing a legend like Gregg Rolie. He knew his performance would determine whether the band would maintain its brilliance or lose the momentum that had carried them to the top. Jonathan threw himself into the work completely, laboring tirelessly to prove that his vision was exactly what Journey needed. During the recording sessions, Jonathan became the architect of fundamental ballads like Open Arms. Steve Perry connected with the piece immediately, while other band members were hesitant, fearing it was too melodic for their rock style. However, Jonathan defended the song with unwavering conviction, knowing that this touch of sensitivity was what would connect Journey to the hearts of millions. With the album nearly finished, Steve Perry felt a piece was still missing to complete the puzzle. Perry looked at Jonathan and asked him for one last idea from his notebook. Jonathan went home and, while reviewing his notes, came across the writing he had kept since his days of greatest uncertainty. "Don't stop believing." That phrase from his father was the spark that ignited everything. Sitting at the piano, in barely 10 minutes, the melody and the chorus were born almost by instinct. The next day, the song took on an incredible life of its own thanks to the group's chemistry. Steve Perry suggested extending the chorus chords into the verses and asked Jonathan to apply that rhythmic piano style that would become the song's signature. Neil Schon designed the iconic guitar line, while Ross Valerie and Steve Smith built a bass and drum part with a constant pulse, evoking the rhythmic motion of a moving train. Together, they made an artistic decision that was both risky and masterful, hiding the chorus until the very end. Unlike most hits that repeat the chorus from the first minute, they allowed the song to unfold like a narrative journey. Steve Perry knew that this structure would build such emotional tension that the audience would need to listen to the song over and over again to reach that final climax of "Don't Stop Believin'." The lyrics were the result of brilliant improvisation. Feeling the pulse of the drums, Jonathan visualized a train, which gave rise to the concept of the midnight train going anywhere. For the characters, they chose Detroit as a tribute to the energy of their fans in that city. They chose South Detroit simply because the phonetics fit the melody perfectly. Although it isn't a real geographical location, for Jonathan Cain, it ended up representing something much more powerful. A city of possibilities, an imaginary space where anyone's dreams, no matter where they come from, can come true. When the song was released as the second single from the Escape album in October 1981, the results were positive but not explosive. It reached number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. At that time, other pieces by the band, such as the ballad "Open Arms," seemed destined to be Journey's greatest legacy after reaching the number 2 spot on the charts. However, the fate of this song was not to be a passing fad, but a long-lasting success. Over the next 2 decades, the song never disappeared. It became the soundtrack to key moments in people's lives, graduations, celebrations, and sporting events. It was the melody everyone turned to when they needed a boost of hope. Without anyone realizing it, the phrase from Jonathan Cain's father was taking deep root in popular culture. The status of "World Anthem" was solidified nearly 25 years after its release, fueled by 3 moments that launched it into infinity. 2007, a television phenomenon. Its appearance in the final scene of The Sopranos, one of the most influential series in history, caused an immediate impact. A new generation rushed to find the song on digital platforms. 2009, the youth phenomenon. The musical series Glee introduced it to teenagers, leading young people who weren't even born in the 80s to sing it all over the world. Thanks to this momentum, it became the first catalog song to break digital sales records, proving that its message was timeless. Its impact reached a peak emotional level in 2020, during moments of great global uncertainty. Hospitals in cities like New York used it as a symbol of victory every time a person managed to recover and return home. It was the circle closing, the very same message that saved Jonathan Cain in his darkest hour was now serving to give strength to the entire world. Today, "Don't Stop Believin" is not just a song, it is a historical phenomenon. It is officially the most streamed rock track in the history of digital platforms, surpassing billions of plays. That piece of advice Jonathan scribbled in his notebook transformed into the most valuable asset in modern music. Jonathan Cain's story teaches us that success isn't always immediate. Sometimes, the best ideas need time to mature, and the right words can wait decades to find their moment of glory. So, no matter what you are facing today, remember what that notebook in the recording studio said. Don't stop believing.